The one-act players present The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes. Today's adventure, The Speckled Band.
When reflecting upon the many cases in which I shared the confidence of my friend Sherlock Holmes, I can recall none more disturbing than the one that began on an early April morning back in '83. Holmes was a late riser as a rule, so imagine my surprise when I awoke to find him standing, fully dressed, at the foot of my bed in the rooms we shared then on Baker Street. It's only 7:15.
Watson!
Oh, Holmes? Oh, what is it then? A fire?
No! A client. It seems that a young lady has arrived in a considerable state of excitement, insisting upon a consultation. I presume you wish to put on a robe and follow this from the outset?
Most certainly. What do you know of this young lady?
Nothing particular as of this moment. But when young ladies wander about the metropolis at this hour of the morning and knock sleepy people up out of their beds, I gather something very pressing is at hand.
Indeed.
Mrs. Hudson described her as a young woman dressed in black, heavily veiled, and at this moment waiting for us in the sitting room. Ready?
Yes, quite.
Good morning, madam. I am Sherlock Holmes. This is my intimate friend and associate, Dr. Watson.
Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Helen Stoner.
Please sit down by the fire, Miss Stoner, for I observe that you are shivering.
It is not cold which makes me shiver.
What, then?
It is fear, Mr. Holmes.
You must not fear. We shall soon set matters right. You have come by train this morning, I see.
You know me, then?
No, but I observe the second half of a return ticket in the palm of your left glove.
Oh, yes, I started from home before 6 and came by first train from Leatherhead to Waterloo. Oh, sir, I can stand this strain no longer. I shall go mad if it continues. The horror of my situation lies in the fact that my fears are so vague and my suspicions depend so entirely upon small points, and those I turn to merely soothe me with calming words about my imagination. I can tell they believe this all to be the fancies of a nervous woman.
Here, Miss Stoner, take some coffee.
Thank you. I come seeking your advice, Mr. Holmes, for I do not know how to proceed. My fiancé is presently in Europe and not a man of much financial means, so I have no money to pay you now, but once I marry, I will have an income, and you shall then find me most grateful.
Please, tell me your story, and leave nothing out, even if you think it trivial.
Thank you. Well, my sister, Julia, and I came to live in Surrey some years ago with our stepfather, Dr. Grimsby Roylott, who is the last survivor of the Roylotts of Stoke Moran.
Your name is familiar to me.
The family was once quite rich, but 4 successful, wasteful heirs left nothing but a few acres of ground and a 200-year-old house falling to ruin. The last squire's only son, my stepfather, was determined to avoid the life of an aristocratic pauper. He obtained an advance from a relative, took a medical degree, and left for India, where he had quite a successful practice.
And when he met your widowed mother?
Yes. Our father was Major General Stoner of the Bengal Artillery. I was only 2 years old when he died, and Julia but 5. Soon after her remarriage, my mother began speaking of a wish to leave Calcutta to return to England. I think she found India too full of memories of her father. When we returned, however, Dr. Roylott found it difficult to establish a medical practice in London. Still, my mother had a good income left to her by our father, enough for all our wants. There seemed no obstacle to our happiness, and then...
Go on.
Then my mother died. She was killed 6 years ago in a railway accident. Dr. Roylott then abandoned attempts to establish himself in London and took us to live with him in the ancestral house at Stoke Moran. And after that, such a sad change came over him. He shut himself away in the house and rarely ventured out, and when he did, it seemed only to engage in ferocious quarrels with whoever might cross his path. But the oddest thing was how he began to disappear, for weeks on end, going off to live with the bands of wandering gypsies he had allowed to stay on the estate.
Gypsies?
Yes. I suppose you could say they are my stepfather's only friends. Everyone gives Stoke Moran a wide berth these days, Mr. Holmes, being not only afraid of the doctor's temper, but also of the exotic animals from India that he allows to freely roam the grounds, baboons and a cheetah at present.
Interesting.
Indeed.
Well, you can imagine from what I say that my poor sister Julie and I had no great pleasure in our lives. No servant would stay with us, so we did all the work of the house. Julia was not yet 25 at the time of her death, and yet her hair had already begun to whiten, even as mine has.
Your sister is dead, then?
Just 2 years ago. It was such a tragedy. Even though we saw very few people at Stoke Moran, Julia was fortunate to meet and fall in love with the Major of the Marines. They were to be married. I was so happy for her. It was a mere fortnight before the wedding that she died. And now, looking back, those events frighten me all the more.
Pray, be precise as to the details.
On the night of her... that night, Julia was in my room, chatting about wedding plans. She rose to leave, but paused at the door and asked, "Helen, have you heard anyone whistle in the dead of night?"
Had you?
"Never, Mr. Holmes, as I told her." She then asked, "Do you think it possible you have whistled in your sleep?" Oh, I told her no, I did not think so. It was such an odd question that I asked her to explain.
And?
She said that during the past nights at 3 a.m. she had been roused from sleep by a low, clear whistle. I said it was likely coming from the gypsy camp, but she replied that if such were the case, then I would have heard it too, as our bedroom windows both faced the same direction across the lawn. She then said it was no matter of great consequence, left my room, and in a few moments I heard her turn the key in the lock of her door.
Indeed. Was it always your custom to lock yourselves in at night?
Always.
And why?
Well, there were the animals that the doctor kept, and with strangers often camping so near the house, we had no feeling of security unless our doors were locked.
Quite so. And the windows to your bedrooms?
We barred the shutters.
Yes. Pray, proceed with your statement.
Later that night, the weather turned wild with a howling wind, and I had trouble sleeping due to the noise. Suddenly, amidst the sounds of the gale outside, I heard the terrified scream of a woman. I knew it was my sister. I sprang from my bed and rushed out the door. I hurried to her room, and just then her door opened and swung inward. I stared, horror-stricken, not knowing what was to issue forth. But by the light of the corridor lamp I could see it was my sister, just inside the doorway, her face blanched with terror, her hands groping for help. Well, I ran to her and threw my arms round her, but at that moment her knees seemed to give way, and she fell to the ground. She writhed as one in terrible pain. I thought she did not recognize me, but she looked in my eyes with a terrible gaze and shrieked out in a voice which I shall never forget. "Oh, my God, Helen! It was the band, the Speckled band." I rushed out, calling for my stepfather, whom I met hastening from his room in his dressing gown. When he reached her, she was unconscious. He placed her on the bed, but before he could even examine her, my sister sank away and died.
I am very sorry.
One moment. Did you hear any noises coming from your sister's room?
No, but with the gale blowing outside and the creakings of an old house, it would have been difficult to hear such noises.
Was your sister dressed?
No, she was in her nightdress.
Was her room dark when you entered?
No, the lamp was burning. In her right hand was found a charred match stump, too.
So, she had struck a light to look about her when the alarm took place. That is important, Watson. And what conclusion did the coroner come to?
He investigated with great care. I had seen my sister open the door to her room, and I presume it was locked before then. The windows were shuttered and barred from the inside. The walls and flooring were examined and found solid all around. The chimney is wide, but there are bars reinforcing it all the way up to the flue. It was clear that my sister was alone when she met her end.
What about poison?
She was examined for it, but without success. In the end, the coroner agreed with my stepfather that Julia had perished from some fit of the nervous system that could not be anticipated or prevented.
But you doubt these conclusions.
I don't know. She may have died of nervous shock, but I don't know what could have frightened her so.
Oh. And what did you gather from this allusion to a band, a speckled band?
Sometimes I have thought it merely the wild talk of a delirium. At other times I think she might have referred to the band of gypsies who often wear spotted handkerchiefs, but, well...
These are very deep waters. Now, Miss Stoner, you must tell me what has frightened you to such an extent that you now travel to London to seek my advice.
Just 2 days ago, my stepfather began some repairs, including the outer wall of my bedroom. This has necessitated moving into my sister's chamber to sleep in her bed, where she...
Miss Stoner?
I am all right. Late last night, as I lie in bed, I heard in the silence the low whistle which had been the herald of my sister's death. I lit the lamp, but there was nothing to be seen. I was too shaken to go to bed again, and so I dressed and I made my journey here.
You have done wisely. There are many details I wish to know before I decide on a course of action, yet we have not a moment to lose. If we were to come to Stoke Moran today, would it be possible for us to arrive and meet you unseen by anyone on the estate?
Well, yes, I suppose. My stepfather is to be away all day.
Excellent. You are not averse to this trip, Watson?
By no means.
Then we shall both come. You may expect us early in the afternoon. Watson, if you could show our guest out.
Of course.
Oh, thank you, gentlemen. My heart is lightened. I look forward to seeing you both this afternoon.
Miss Stoner?
And what do you think of it all, Watson?
It seems to me to be a most dark and sinister business.
Dark enough and sinister enough. Now, let us have a little breakfast, and afterwards I shall walk down to the Commons, where I hope to get some data which may help us in this matter. Watson?
In here, Holmes. Just finishing my notes on our morning meeting. Any luck with you?
Oh, yes. There is much to tell, but it can wait. Gather your things and hail us a cab to Waterloo, and slip your revolver into your jacket pocket, good man.
You think it's necessary?
That, and a toothbrush, are all I think we shall need.
Mr. Holmes, I am so pleased to see you.
Good afternoon. You see, we have been as good as our word.
Yes. Good day, Mr. Watson.
Miss Stoner, a fine day, yes.
We must make the best use of our time, so if you will kindly show us the rooms in question, I would examine the outside first.
Of course. Just this way. Those are the bedrooms there.
The one on the left, I take it, is the room in which you used to sleep?
It is. The middle was my sister's, where I am sleeping now. The last on the right is my stepfather's.
And on the other side of the rooms is the corridor which runs between them?
Yes.
There are windows in it, of course.
Yes, but very small ones. Too narrow and high for anyone to pass through.
Oh. Now, would you kindly go into your present room and bar the shutters?
Certainly.
Watson, do you notice anything odd about that end wall there?
I see scaffolding erected. Apart from an excess of lichen, the masonry looks sound, and the wall appears true and well seated on the foundation.
Exactly! Do you not find it odd to find repairs initiated on a perfectly sound wall?
Indeed. Unless this young woman was meant to change rooms.
Oh, now that is suggestive. Thank you, Miss Stoner. No slit by which a knife can pass through to lift the bar. The hinges are well-seated, solid iron. My theory certainly presents some difficulties. No one could pass through these shutters if they were bolted. Well, we shall see if the inside throws any light upon the matter.
Shall we look into the first room, Holmes?
No, we shall discover nothing there to assist us. Let us focus on the middle chamber. Miss Stoner, are the furnishings here as they were when your sister occupied this room?
Yes, I do believe so.
Very good. Watson, what do you make of that ventilator high on the wall?
It seems an ordinary ventilator.
This bell pull, Miss Stoner, connects to the servants' station?
I assume so, Mr. Holmes, but I confess I have never used it.
I thought not, or you certainly would have noticed. It's a dummy.
Won't it ring?
No, it's not even attached to a wire. It's merely hooked to the wall there beside the ventilator.
How peculiar.
I should like to have a look at your stepfather's room now.
Of course.
Quite Spartan furnishings.
After my mother died, my stepfather had most of the furniture removed. He said he preferred simple surroundings in the manner of his quarters in Calcutta. He kept only this high-backed chair and that bookcase.
Complete with extensive articles on tropical diseases and treatments, I note. There's an impressive collection on animals of the Orient as well.
Not unexpected, though, given his years practicing in India. Tell me, do you keep a dog?
No, Mr. Holmes.
Curious, then, this leash. Perhaps a cat?
No. Does one leash a cat?
Perhaps the cheetah that you say prowls the estate. But actually, I was referring to this.
A saucer of milk.
Most curious.
A cheetah is just a big cat, and yet a saucer of milk does not go far in satisfying its wants, I dare say.
Holmes, look here beside the bookcase. Another bell pull. This one does not seem to work either. Curious.
But not surprising. One last thing, Miss Stoner. Do you know what is in here?
The safe? My stepfather's business papers.
You've seen inside, then?
Yes. I can't remember when. It was some time ago, but it was filled with papers.
I think I have seen enough now. Let us return to the lawn. It is very essential, Miss Stoner, that you absolutely follow my advice in every respect.
I shall most certainly do so.
Good. Tonight, you must stay in your old room. Tell no one you are doing so. Take only what you will absolutely need from your present chamber this afternoon. I would also ask that you retire early and burn no light past 9. Do you understand what you ought to do, Miss Stoner?
Yes.
Do everything I have asked without hesitation. Leave the rest in our hands.
Of course.
I believe I noted an inn across the field there?
Yes, that is the Crown Inn.
And your windows would be visible from there at night?
Oh, I'm sure they would.
Then, that is where Watson and I will be for the remainder of the day and this evening.
Mr. Holmes, have you an answer for my sister's death?
I should prefer to have clear proofs before I speak. Come, Watson, let us make way to the inn. Watson? Watson, wake up!
Oh.
On your feet. It's past 12. We must be going.
Right.
And don't forget your pistol.
Right.
Do you know, Watson, I had some misgivings about asking you to come tonight. There is a distinct element of danger.
When you speak of danger, I can only surmise that you saw more in those rooms than was visible to me.
No, I imagine you saw all that I did, but I fancy I may have deduced a little more.
Apart from the bell pull, I can't see... My God, Holmes! Did you see that?
That was the baboon.
Good heavens, I'd forgotten. I dare not think of the cheetah. Do you think it...
We must be silent now. The least sound would be fatal to our plans. Good. The window is still unlocked. 1, 2, 3. We must sit without a light. Do not go to sleep, Watson. Your very life may depend on it. Have your pistol at ready in case it is needed. I will sit on the side of the bed and you in that chair. Holmes, shh. I've heard. Be still. Oh, there! Holmes! You see it, Watson! Holmes! What's going on? There! You see it! Holmes! You see it! What on earth? Watson! Your pistol! Follow me! Dr. Roylott! No! Watson, do not move! Roylott is beyond your help. Look! There! A snake! The Speckled Band! A snake? It is a swamp adder, the deadliest snake in India. He died within 10 seconds of being bitten.
The doctor.
Roylott was responsible for Julius Stoner's death, and had we not interceded, was set to perpetrate a second heinous act of murder.
My word.
Please, if you could step aside.
Of course.
Slowly.
Yes.
Good. Now, with due care, I can slide the loop of this leash over its head and... There!
Oh.
Now, back to your den with you.
Splendid work, Holmes.
Come, Watson. Let us find Miss Stoner some other place of shelter for the night, and then inform the county police of what has transpired. Have you about finished your notes, Watson?
Yes, nearly. I'm still unclear as to the gypsies.
I, too, allowed that erroneous bit of information to confuse the issue. The presence of the gypsies, along with the poor girl's reference to a speckled band and her sister's speculation regarding a gypsy kerchief, put me upon an entirely wrong scent. Which shows, my dear Watson, how dangerous it is to reason from insufficient data.
Yes, of course.
Once it was clear to me how no danger could threaten an occupant of that room from the window or the door, my attention was speedily drawn to the ventilator and the bell pull. I first noted that the ventilator was between two bedrooms, which was odd, as most are said to pass fresh air from the outside.
Yes.
And once it was discovered that the bell pull did not function as one would normally expect, I knew it had to serve some other purpose. But what? It was then the doctor's fondness for creatures from India came to mind.
The adder. But how did you know
The doctor's journals on exotics of India, the milk, the leash, the second bell pull, and you yourself suspected poison in the death of Julius Stoner.
which was dismissed at the coroner's inquiry?
As he could not see the facts as plainly as I, a chair was placed underneath the ventilator in the doctor's room. The cushion showed wear, as if someone had stood repeatedly upon it. Therefore, I surmised the doctor had stood upon the chair and sent a deadly snake through the ventilator.
Remarkable.
Elementary. But more interesting was the fact that while the doctor could surely place the serpent into the room, it might or might not bite the occupant of the bed. That made for the risk that the creature would be revealed in the morning light. It was for this reason the snake was trained.
Trained. Ah, the whistle.
Excellent, Watson! We heard the whistle soft and low, which I suspect was to compel the snake to crawl down the bell pull. As morning approached, I expect the whistle would summon the snake up the rope and back to the ventilator, where it would be rewarded with milk in a saucer.
And during the day, Roylott kept the snake hidden in his safe.
Yes, you see, the poor woman might escape every night for a week, perhaps more. But sooner or later, the snake would claim its victim.
Only the sharpest-eyed coroner could locate two small puncture marks where such an exotic poison was introduced.
Precisely. With Miss Stoner claiming she had heard the same whistle that marked the tragic death of her sister, I knew what to listen for last night. When I heard the whistle, I came on guard, but I could see nothing. And with such a deadly presence lurking close by, I could not act hastily. When next I heard the snake hiss just above my head, I struck the light and lashed out with my cane.
And all the unexpected commotion coming from the room caused the doctor to whistle for the snake.
Perhaps the doctor was trying to recall the snake, that I do not know. But my attack roused the creature's temper, and once back through the ventilator, it flew upon the first person it saw.
Oh, terrible business. All for greed.
Indeed. Yesterday, when I reviewed the will of Miss Stoner's mother filed in London, her estate was valued at a goodly sum. The will also stipulated that upon their marriage, each of her daughters was to receive half the estate. Apparently, Roylott was unwilling to part with money. It has been proven that the last of the Stoke-Moran heirs would rather kill his stepdaughters than risk further decline in his living standard.
A doctor? It's unimaginable.
When a doctor does go wrong, he is the first of criminals. He has nerve, and he has knowledge. I am no doubt indirectly responsible for Dr. Grimsby Roylott's death, Watson, but I cannot say that it will weigh very heavily upon my conscience.
You have been listening to The Speckled Band, based on the original story by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. Adapted for one-act audio theater by Glenn Carlson and Scott Crisp. Recorded at Lindner Sound in San Francisco, with Scott Crisp as Sherlock Holmes, Glenn Carlson as Dr. Watson, Blancett Reynolds as Helen Stoner, and featuring Geoff Arnold. Produced and directed by Glenn Carlson and the One Act Players, who invite you to visit our website at www.oneact.org.